Every once in a while, the world of college basketball witnesses a moment so special, it transcends the game itself. On February 2nd, fans were treated to not one, but two jersey retirement ceremonies for two of the sport's most iconic figures, Caitlin Clark at Iowa and A'ja Wilson at South Carolina. Each event told its own story, celebrating players who shattered records, brought national acclaim to their programs, and transformed the landscape of women's basketball. From the emotional tributes in Iowa City and Columbia to the highlight reel performances that occurred on those days, these ceremonies were more than just a trip down memory lane. They were a reminder of the lasting impact that both Clark and Wilson have made on the game. Caitlin Clark's day in Iowa City. A star returns to Carver Hawkeye Arena. In Iowa City, it was always going to be a special day the moment the Hawkeyes announced they would be raising Caitlin Clark's number 22 jersey into the rafters at Carver Hawkeye Arena. The star point guard, who played at Iowa from 2020 to 2024, had made history at nearly every turn, becoming the NCAA Division I all-time leading scorer with 3,951 points, leading the Hawkeyes to 2 national championship games and winning 3 Big Ten tournaments. Now, she was back, this time not in uniform, but as an honored alum. The fact that the day ended with Iowa's biggest victory of the season, a 76-69 upset over number 4 USC, only made the occasion sweeter. Clark admitted she felt a different kind of nerves returning to the place where she had made so many memories. For years, fans had packed the arena to watch her launch 3-pointers from the logo and zip passes through double teams, all while she carried herself with an unshakable swagger. But on this day, her challenge was not to face a tough opponent for 40 minutes, but rather to soak in the moment and reflect on everything she had accomplished. She admitted that taking it all in, especially becoming the leading scorer in NCAA Division I history, made her feel more vulnerable than she ever did on the court. The afternoon was filled with tributes and gestures that highlighted just how much Clark meant to Iowa. Some 15,000 seats in the arena were draped with number 22 rally towels, turning the stands into a sea of black and gold celebrating her number. The entire Iowa coaching staff, past and present, sang her praises, and fans roared with approval whenever the video board displayed clips of her time with the Hawkeyes. It was hard to believe that less than a year ago, Clark was capping off one of the most remarkable individual runs college basketball had ever seen, culminating in a second consecutive national championship appearance. However, Clark's presence wasn't the only headline of the day. Iowa's current squad rallied around the energy in the building to pull off a key resume-building win over USC, ranked number 4 in the nation. Lucy Olson led Iowa with 28 points, matching star Juju Watkins' 27 for USC in a gripping back-and-forth contest. By the time the final buzzer sounded, it felt as though the Hawkeyes had recaptured a bit of that Caitlin Clark magic, proving once again how special Carver Hawkeye can be when a superstar calls it home. In the stands, Clark was joined by her parents, brothers, and boyfriend, as well as celebrities like David Letterman and the entire leadership team from the Indiana Fever, her WNBA franchise. The presence of Letterman added a sense of showmanship to the affair, while Fever coach Stephanie White, general manager Amber Cox, and president Kelly Krauskopf took in the atmosphere as they looked to build around Clark at the pro level. Security escorted her everywhere, a clear sign of her growing stardom, but she maintained that she tries to be the same person she's always been. After the game, Clark took center stage for the jersey retirement ceremony. The team and coaches joined her at half court, fans erupted, and the number 22 was slowly raised into the rafters. In a touching moment, Clark thanked her teammates, family, and the fans who had supported her journey, especially those who had to pay a high price for tickets to witness history. She joked about the cost, then reminded everyone that she'd be back in May for an exhibition game at Carver Hawkeye.
The Pacers Sport and Entertainment. Give it up for the Fever. We're playing a game right here, baby. Woo!
Featuring her Indiana Fever against the Brazilian national team. Coach Jan Jensen, reflecting on the whirlwind of the day, acknowledged the challenge of keeping her current players focused amidst all the tributes to Clark. Ultimately, it was a day where Iowa fans got to celebrate the past while also relishing a big win that could shape the Hawkeyes' future. A'ja Wilson's ceremony in Columbia, a legacy of titles and achievements. While Clark's jersey was making its way to the rafters in Iowa, another celebration of a college legend was taking place in Columbia, South Carolina, where A'ja Wilson, one of the greatest players in Gamecocks history, had her number 22 jersey retired at Colonial Life Arena. For Wilson, this moment was a culmination of a career that transformed the South Carolina program into a national powerhouse. She was a 4-time All-American, the 2018 unanimous National Player of the Year, a 3-time SEC Player of the Year, and led the Gamecocks to their first national title in 2017. Wilson stood at center court, flanked by her parents, looking up to see her jersey illuminated in a solitary spotlight. Tears streamed down her face as she shook gently with emotion, realizing that no one would ever wear number 22 again at South Carolina. Coach Don Staley made sure of that. It was a moment of closure and celebration, marking the end of a journey that began when Wilson decided to stay close to home for college, rather than join a more established women's basketball powerhouse. Staley spoke about Wilson's impact, both on and off the court.
She's the best player in the world. I mean, quite simply.
By choosing South Carolina, Wilson proved that a homegrown star could change the trajectory of a local program, bringing in top-tier recruits and raising the profile of women's basketball in the state. While the school's rules usually dictate a 5-year waiting period before a jersey can be retired, it was clear that for Wilson, an exception would have been warranted if only they could have gotten the policy changed. The unveiling of her statue in 2021 was a prelude to this retirement, but that event occurred without fans due to the pandemic. Now, in front of a sellout crowd, Wilson could finally share the moment with the people who watched her become a legend. The emotional day was heightened by the fact that Wilson's accomplishments have only grown since leaving South Carolina. She's now a multi-time WNBA champion with the Las Vegas Aces, has garnered multiple league MVP honors, and has continued to represent her country in international competition. Yet, as she said during her ceremony, her time in Columbia shaped her, both as an athlete and as a person.
Columbia, South Carolina is my home, and it shaped me not just as an athlete, but as a person.
She credited the South Carolina faithful for embracing her from day one and turning Colonial Life Arena into one of the loudest venues in the country. 2 iconic players, 2 unforgettable tributes. Both jersey retirement ceremonies for Clark and Wilson underscored a common theme. These players weren't just great athletes. They were transformative figures for their programs and for women's basketball as a whole. Clark's time at Iowa saw record-breaking scoring exploits that redefined the limits of offensive creativity at the college level, and she ignited a fan base that hadn't seen such a dynamic star in decades. Meanwhile, Wilson's career at South Carolina elevated a program that had historically been overshadowed by more traditional powerhouses. Her decision to stay close to home paved the way for multiple national titles, skyrocketing attendance, and a sustained run of excellence that has made the Gamecocks a perennial contender. What makes these retirements even more meaningful is that they happened within days of each other, offering a parallel glimpse into how different programs celebrate their legends. At Iowa, the emotional fuel came from an upset win over a top-ranked opponent on a day dedicated to Clark's legacy. At South Carolina, the retirement ceremony was attended by a sellout crowd eager to honor the most decorated player in the program's history, culminating in a moment where Wilson stood trembling with tears as she gazed upon her permanently enshrined jersey. In both cases, the impact on the current players can't be overstated. Iowa's Jan Jensen admitted it was tough for her team to remain laser-focused with rally towels bearing Clark's number 22 draped over every seat in the arena. Yet they channeled that energy into a crucial top 10 win. South Carolina's roster, led by a new generation of stars, watched Wilson's banner rise and saw firsthand the heights they can aspire to. The presence of so many star alumni, NBA celebrities, and fans who traveled long distances highlighted how these ceremonies are about more than just one person's achievements. They're celebrations of entire communities that have rallied around these icons. What these retirements mean for women's college basketball. The simultaneous jersey retirements of Clark and Wilson offer a snapshot of just how far women's basketball has come in terms of visibility and star power. Both players attracted massive followings during their college careers, drew record attendance for their biggest games, and continue to shine in the WNBA, where they draw fans and celebrities alike. Clark's style, marked by deep three-pointers and pinpoint passes, captured the imagination of a younger generation, while Wilson's dominance in the paint and her charismatic leadership sparked a national conversation around the SEC and the rivalry with other powerhouse programs. The fact that each ceremony was accompanied by a significant game, Iowa's upset over USC, South Carolina's embrace of a sold-out crowd for Wilson, speaks to how these players transcended box scores and became cultural phenomena. They represent a new era of women's basketball, one where players have brand power, where sold-out arenas are commonplace, and where the media coverage rivals that of men's sports in some markets. Their legacies also raise important questions about how other schools might honor iconic players in the future. If Clark and Wilson can have their numbers retired almost immediately, which other superstars might receive similar recognition soon? This debate speaks to the growing trend of celebrating women's basketball achievements in real time, rather than decades after a player's career has ended. Some coaches and administrators believe in giving fans the opportunity to honor legends while their feats are still fresh, cultivating a stronger connection between alumni, current teams, and fan bases. The road ahead. For Clark and Wilson, life after jersey retirement is already mapped out in some sense. Clark continues to develop her budding WNBA career with the Indiana Fever, aiming to transform a struggling franchise into a contender. She has also agreed to return to Carver Hawkeye Arena for an exhibition game against the Brazilian national team, ensuring Iowa fans get one more chance to watch her work her magic in the building that made her a household name. Meanwhile, Wilson remains the face of the Las Vegas Aces' quest for multiple WNBA championships, already boasting multiple MVP awards and a leadership role on Team USA. The next generation of Hawkeyes and Gamecocks, for their part, will carry the lessons from these ceremonies. Iowa players witnessed how the energy of a retirement day can propel them to a big win, while South Carolina's roster saw the culmination of a player's career that proved no goal is out of reach. In short, the retirements of Clark's and Wilson's jerseys didn't just celebrate the past. They also pointed the way forward for the programs they helped elevate. Ultimately, the dual retirements of Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson stand as defining moments in women's college basketball history. They underscore how transformative these players were, not just in winning games, but in capturing the public's imagination and elevating the sport's profile. Whether you were at Carver Hawkeye Arena, surrounded by a sea of number 22 rally towels, or at Colonial Life Arena watching Wilson's tears as her jersey rose to the rafters, you were witnessing two of the biggest thank yous in women's hoops. For Clark and Wilson, the tributes mark an end to their college stories. But for the sport, it's yet another reminder that the legends of women's basketball are now household names, and their impact will be felt for generations to come.